When you see a brand new skyscraper just scraping the clouds or a massive stadium that holds 100,000 fans, you probably think, wow, what an engineering marvel. But behind every single one of those projects is an equally massive financial marvel, a really complex puzzle of costs, contracts, and cash. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the professional who actually masters that puzzle.
So here's the game plan. We're going to follow the life of a construction project, right? From a simple idea all the way to handing over the keys. And along the way, we'll see exactly how the quantity surveyor shapes, manages, and basically masters the money at every single stage. All right, let's start at the very beginning. The best way to think about a quantity surveyor, or QS as they're called, is as the project's financial architect. It's a great analogy. While the actual architect is designing the physical space, the QS is designing the budget and the whole financial structure that makes it possible in the first place. And the kind of money we're talking about, it's huge. I mean, think about it. When a project's budget is in the hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars, you can't just track that on a simple spreadsheet, right? You need a specialist, and that specialist is the quantity surveyor. To really put this into perspective, get this. Over a decade ago, the UK's construction industry alone was worth about £100 billion every single year. That is just a staggering amount of money that needs to be tracked, controlled, and spent wisely. This is the world the QS lives and breathes in. And what really sets them apart is that they're not just accountants who are good with numbers. First and foremost, they are construction professionals. They get the nuts and bolts of building techniques, materials, and contracts. Their core job is to manage every single cost, from the first sketch on a napkin to the final coat of paint, making sure the project delivers real value for money. Now, this role isn't one size fits all. A QS can actually sit on either side of the negotiating table. On one side, you have the client's QS, often called a PQS, whose main job is to protect the client's wallet. Then on the other side, you've got the contractor's QS, who works for the builder and is focused on making sure the job is profitable. They're on opposite sides for sure, but you absolutely need both for a project's financial health. Okay, so let's jump into what happens before a single shovel hits the dirt. This is where the QS does some of their most important work, taking a client's big idea and turning it into a realistic, workable financial plan. It pretty much happens in 4 key stages. First up, even before there are any detailed drawings, the QS gives some early cost advice so the client can set a budget. Then, as the architects start designing, the QS is constantly cost planning, making sure the design doesn't run away from the budget. Step 3 is creating this big document called the Bill of Quantities. And finally, they check out all the prices that come back from the builders. So what on earth is this Bill of Quantities, or BOQ? Well, think of it as the ultimate shopping list for the entire building. The QS literally measures every single component, every cubic meter of concrete, every ton of steel, every last brick. This whole list is then sent out to different builders who fill in their prices. It's brilliant because it ensures everyone is pricing the exact same thing, giving you a true apples-to-apples comparison. All right, a contractor has been picked. Now the project moves into the procurement phase, and the QS becomes mission control for putting together the huge team of specialists who will actually bring this building to life. And believe me, this team is huge. Just look at this list. The QS sits right in the middle of this web, acting as the financial connection between all of them. They have to speak the language of architects, engineers, and builders, and translate all those design ideas into hard costs. They're making sure everyone, from the plumbers to the electricians, is on the same page with the budget. So to be clear, they're not just, placing orders. They are wrangling this whole complex web of contracts and payments. Their job is to make sure every single piece of the puzzle, every specialist company, every materials supplier, is brought on board at exactly the right time and for the right price. So now, we're in the middle of construction. And here's the thing, no project ever goes exactly to plan. Materials get delayed, you find something unexpected in the ground, or, and this is the most common one, the client changes their mind. This is where the QS really proves their worth. Oh yeah, this is a classic. Imagine you're halfway through the build and the client suddenly decides they want a brick wall instead of a timber fence. You can't just say, sure, no problem, without understanding what that's going to cost. And the tool for this is called a cost variation. Before anyone picks up a tool, the QS prepares this formal document that clearly lays out the financial impact of that change. It gives the client total clarity so they can make a smart, informed decision. No surprises. And here's exactly how it works.
It's a really simple but powerful idea. The client wants to swap the timber fence for a brick wall. So the QS calculates the cost of the timber fence they're not building anymore. That's a credit, so it's a minus. Then they calculate the cost to add the new brick wall. The final variation shows the net change. In this case, it's an extra £11,656. Simple, right? Crystal clear.
All right, the building is almost done. Now the QS's job is to make sure everything wraps up with a clean financial finish. It's all about closing out the contracts and settling that final bill.
This happens in a few key stages. First, you have practical completion. That's the official handover, when the client gets the keys. Then comes the rectification period, usually about a year, where the contractor has to come back and fix any little glitches. And all of this leads to the final account, which is probably the most important financial document of the entire project. And this quote really sums it up perfectly. The final account, which is prepared and agreed upon by the QS, is the definitive, final statement of what the project actually cost. It includes the original contract price, the cost of all those changes we talked about, and it settles every last penny. It is the financial full stop on the whole thing.
Okay, so we followed one project from start to finish. But let's pull the camera back a bit, because quantity surveying isn't just a job. It's a global profession with some incredible opportunities and a growing demand all over the world.
I mean, just look at these numbers. Global construction is a massive, massive slice of the world's economy, and it's only getting bigger. And as more and more complex projects get built everywhere, the need for professionals who can manage those huge costs goes right up along with it. So how do you actually build a career in this? Well, for a lot of people, the key is joining a professional body, like the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, or RICS. Think of it like a gold standard. A stamp of approval. Being a member tells clients you've reached a high level of competence and you follow a strict code of ethics. It gives them confidence and it opens doors to major international projects. It's what turns a local job into a truly global career. So the next time you look up at a city skyline, just remember that every single one of those towers had a financial blueprint that was just as important as its architectural one. And the person who drew it up, who managed it, and who brought it home on budget was the quantity surveyor.